Yo, it's been 10 long months since the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill was passed, and we still haven't seen any of the Bitcoin. We were told that the strategic Bitcoin reserve was coming, and they wanted to continue accumulating Bitcoin. In fact, there was an executive order that was released by the Trump administration that would essentially tell everybody how much Bitcoin the US federal government had. We still don't know the exact figures. But what they just did begs the question, how serious are they about buying Bitcoin? Remember, Bo Hines recently resigned. I know he did it in good graces, right? But he was the figurehead behind the strategic Bitcoin reserve for the US government. And he resigned. He joined Tether. And I remember when that happened, OPTI and I were going back and forth and we were saying, hey, you know what? This is probably not a good sign for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Then Scott Bessent went on TV and he said something that would signal that the US was not serious about buying Bitcoin. He got a lot of heat off X, off Bitcoin Twitter. And he kind of backtracked a little bit with a post. But again, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. And I think this is a big deal. So what am I talking about? Let's jump straight into it. First, again, we were covering this yesterday. Matthew Schultz is the chairman and chief executive officer at CleanSpark. It's a publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. And he said, just finished a small dinner with Secretary Bessent and Chairman Scott. We talked about the market structure bill. We talked about the economy. We talked about the 11 finalists for the chair of the Fed. And we talked about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. The U.S. holds about $17 billion of Bitcoin and, quote, will not sell and plans to continue to accumulate. Those things were cool. What's cooler? Being at the table, being in the room, talking about land, power, sovereign AI, talking about Bitcoin. The actual Secretary of the Treasury of the United States of America and the chairman of the banking committee care enough about what we do to sit down and talk about how they can help. We're so early, but we're about to arrive. No other crypto or AI folks were there. TikTok. So I think the part that I want to focus on in this post specifically is that it was brought up to him that the United States holds $17 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, the thing that I'm kind of hesitant on and I'm kind of feeling a little bit weird about is, again, this executive order was signed in the beginning of the year. And in the executive order says specifically that the government has to find out how much Bitcoin they have. There was a piece that was released by Lola Leitz. We've covered it. It was published on The Rage, and it basically said that she submitted a Freedom of Information Act, and all she could discover from the U.S. Marshals is that they only hold 30,000 Bitcoin. Compared that with the 200,000 Bitcoin claim that's on some of these public websites about how much Bitcoin the U.S. government holds. So again, it's kind of like a trust me bro situation. It's kind of like a Fort Knox situation. Like, we hold $17 billion worth of Bitcoin. Trust us. We're the US government. That's the kind of situation. That's the feeling that I'm getting here. And we know because of El Salvador that they don't have to do it that way. El Salvador has a public treasury. Anyone could post, copy, paste, or go to El Salvador's Bitcoin treasury website and audit it. You don't have to take Nayib Bukele's word for it. You don't have to take El Salvador's word for it. You can see their treasury, right? So again, this is kind of like a trust me bro situation. Now, I said earlier on, don't pay attention to what they do, pay attention to what they say, and take a look at this. The US government bought pesos before it bought Bitcoin, right? We kept hearing how buying Bitcoin has to be done in a budget neutral way, and they're dragging their feet and it takes time and you have to go through the bureaucracy and you have to check all the boxes. We kept hearing that over and over and over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, the peso doesn't really have a good track record, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is a currency that was basically hyperinflating before Javier Milei was elected into office. And here is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying the U.S. Treasury has concluded 4 days of intense meetings with Minister Luis Captu and his team in D.C. we discussed Argentina's strong economic fundamentals, including structural changes already underway that will generate significant dollar-dominated exports and foreign exchange reserves. Argentina faces a moment of acute illiquidity. The international community, including IMF, is unified behind Argentina and its prudent fiscal strategy, but only the United States can act swiftly, and act we will. To that end, today we are directly purchased Argentine pesos. That's right. The U.S. government has bought a hyperinflated currency before buying Bitcoin. We also don't know how much Bitcoin they own as well. So again, it's not pay attention to what they're saying they're going to do. It's paying attention to what they're doing. And again, you don't hear them using the language, we're buying pesos in a budget neutral way. They didn't even use that language. They just say we're just buying pesos. So, and you're going to ask yourself, how much pesos did they buy? They bought $20 billion of a hyperinflated currency. Trump boosts Argentina's Milei with a $20 billion lifeline as U.S. buys pesos. Now, you got to ask yourself, this is really dumb. Like this, why would they do this? Like, why would they buy a currency that is weak, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever? What is the logic behind that? Well, the logic behind that is, at the end of the day, what this comes down to is Argentina has a tremendous amount of natural resources. And this lifeline towards Milei's currency, Milei's government, is an ability. It's kind of like a trade. It's basically saying, look, we get access to your resources, not China. And if we get access to your resources, we're going to buy $20 billion of your S-coin. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, look, at least, and maybe OPTI gives me a hard time because of this, at least some of the altcoins pump initially. Buying the peso is a guarantee that this thing is just going to go down forever, right? It's just not a good trade. And they're willing to buy the peso before they're willing to buy Bitcoin, right? That's not a good look anyways. So, and then you got to ask yourself, maybe this is related to the dump, right? We've been hearing about this strategic Bitcoin reserve for 10 months. It's quieted down a little bit now. In the beginning of the year, me and OPTI would spin up a live stream, 1,000 live viewers just on YouTube. And we were like, oh my God, the strategic Bitcoin reserve is happening. Whoop-de-doo. This is fantastic. Let's all celebrate. And for 10 months, we kept hearing it. We heard it from, I don't want to name any specific name. We kept hearing it from officials in the administration, officials, part of government, that this was happening. And 10 months later, they bought the Argentine peso instead in a non-budget neutral way, right? And then this begs the question, like, Bo Hines resigned, right? And he was the most bullish in the administration, but he resigned. And we said when he resigned, like, this is not good, right? This is not good for the U.S. government buying Bitcoin. And right now, from where I'm standing, yes, like, he's telling the CEO of CleanSpark that the U.S. government holds $17 billion worth of Bitcoin.
And they want to accumulate.
And they plan to continue to accumulate. And they will not sell, quote, they will not sell. But they bought the pesos first. They bought $20 billion worth of pesos. So if it's so easy to just buy $20 billion worth of pesos, why can't they just say, hey, we bought $20 billion worth of Bitcoin? I don't understand. And especially since Bitcoiners are such a large part of their donor base, I don't get why, I don't get why they're not doing that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Wait, Nico, before we go here, we do have some updates because there is some interesting stuff going on, not necessarily related to this, that I do think are going to reel in. But I do want to mention here, again, the number, $20 billion. That's like over 200,000 Bitcoin. So they could have literally doubled their stack with this. And like the conversation we've been talking about, obviously they've been claiming budget neutral ways. I think I still believe that they want to acquire Bitcoin. They're not going to sell their Bitcoin, but it is very interesting that there is that many that these so many like obstacles in the way of them embracing Bitcoin. And maybe that's just kind of a factor of where we are in the story right now, that right you can kind of embrace Bitcoin, but the US government fully going out and buying Bitcoin, it still doesn't kind of have the ring that it does in our circles. Of course, for us, it's something that Nico just said. We've been kind of waiting all year. We were super hyped that this was going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want this to happen, but it would legitimize what we're doing here a lot. And this $20 billion buy of pesos is just like, they could have bought a bunch of Bitcoin. If you're looking at it from an opportunity cost that us Bitcoiners always do, it's, I think, very obviously from our perspective, a drop ball. If they bought the Bitcoin, they probably could have bought all of Argentina soon enough. And then on the natural resources, and this is where we'll pull up the next tweet, which I think is going to explain to everyone why personally, why I think the price is going down right now. The resources that I heard that's the most specific that the U.S. wants to maintain control over, or rather not lose control over, is Argentina's lithium market. And I think that's what it is, though there is kind of the further conversation of like, why didn't they just kind of invest in their lithium markets in general? And it does go into, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on over in Argentina that some Bitcoiners aren't that happy with. I don't know if you guys been seeing Safety, and he's been going really hard on Malay recently, basically like calling him a LARP and all this stuff. So it is very interesting what's going on. Of course, the big conversation for us is like, okay, you put all these red tape around acquiring Bitcoin. It's been 10 months. And then you just, you know, give Argentina a lifeline with $20 billion. You buy $20 billion of their shitcoin, which is just like insane to us as Bitcoiners. Just the opportunity cost of that is just nuts. Here, Nico, pull up the next tweet and I'll kind of run down what I think's going on. Obviously, guys, this is my opinion. I don't know exactly if this is what's going on with the price. Go to the last tweet that I pulled up here. So if you're asking yourself why is the market dumping today? What is going on? Well, it looks like we might be back into a trade war with China. And here, full screen this or pull it in. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you guys can kind of look at this and what's going on. And I find the connection here is very interesting with what we saw with this news of the...
Can I read it?
No, we don't need to read the whole thing.
I want to kind of do it in the Trump's voice.
No, we don't need to do that. We don't need
some very strange things are happening in China.
That's enough.
They're being very hostile and sending letters to countries throughout the world that they want to impose export controls on each and every element of production having to do with rare earth minerals and virtually anything else they can think of, even if it's not manufactured in China. That's it. That's all you need to know from this. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
I think
massive, fantastic.
I think that's the big signal. Like the coincidence here, the timing of this is the most interesting aspect of what we saw. So yesterday we heard the U.S. is giving Argentina a $20 billion lifeline. We buy their pesos. Everyone's kind of saying it seems to be revolving around their rare earth minerals. And then today we get China, or maybe it was last night. I don't know the timing of this, but we get this tweet from Trump essentially saying, hey, China is now making a play for rare earth minerals right now. And let them read. They're trolling, dude. They're totally trolling. And I don't know if you guys watched the markets this morning, but they're kind of in a panic. And I think everyone is viewing this as like, oh, I thought the trade war was over. I thought this was behind us. And everyone's kind of getting blindsided in the markets. Remember when the trade war happened, there was a lot of volatility in the markets. Everything kind of corrected. And we were like, oh, man, the bull run is completely over. Like, man, we got nuked here. It seems like the market is anticipating a trade war with China. And again, it is all revolving around rare earth minerals here. So I think that I know a lot of people aren't necessarily saying this. This is kind of what I heard from people on Twitter saying that this is all revolving around Argentina's lithium. And this is what this move is. But when you look at it from the Bitcoin perspective of why would you buy $20 billion of a, hyper inflating fiat currency when you could basically double your stack in Bitcoin? And I actually had to tone down the hook a little bit for Nico, because he does love Trump and what they're doing. And so I was a little lenient on it. I was going to go like a lot harder on it if it was just me alone on this, because it does beg the question, how serious are they about acquiring Bitcoin? We keep hearing the rhetoric that they're going to acquire Bitcoin. It keeps seeming like they're pushing that can down the road, and who knows when this is going to happen. Again, there is a deadline here. I think, next year, if this doesn't happen quickly, heading into the midterms, this is going to be completely non-existent. This is not going to be part of the conversation. So it is starting to bring the question of, are they actually going to be buying Bitcoin, or was all this a campaign promise that just isn't going to fully be fulfilled? That's like where I was going to kind of take it, but I didn't want to kind of put Nico in that position. I was like, I will talk about this.
So this is how I'll approach it, right? I think right now Bitcoin is a politically sensitive topic, right? That's the way that I'm seeing it. That's the way that I'm interpreting it. And I think that if the Trump administration bought Bitcoin and Bitcoin had a correction or something like that, meaning Trump's investment, you have to understand, I had a podcast with George Bodine yesterday, and it's going to drop soon. And basically, he was making the argument that, like, look, Nico, I've lost relationships because of my stance on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely, extremely divisive if you have a certain worldview. That's what you guys have to understand. We were talking about this slightly yesterday on when Svetsky was on. And that's what you guys have to like understand, is that some people just, they don't like it. And that's a big portion of the voting population. They're ideologically opposed to the ideas of Bitcoin and what Bitcoin will do for individuals and how Bitcoin will allow individuals to do their thing. That's how they view it. That's how they view this technology. That's how they view Bitcoin, right? So that's I think what is stopping the Trump administration, in my view, that it's politically unpopular and that the headlines are just going to go crazy that the US government bought $20 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, that's my first take, the benefit of the doubt. My second take, going more towards OPTI and his philosophy, which is, you saw how fast they passed the Genius Act. It was both parties came together and passed a bill for stablecoins. Why? Well, because the propagation of stablecoins worldwide is actually extremely beneficial for the dollar. You see how long it's taken to pass the Bitcoin Act and the Clarity Act, and I forgot the other one. You see how long they've taken to pass those? They're not really incentivized. So at the end of the day, I think Lot posted it this morning. I don't know if it's his post or original thought or not, but he basically said something along the lines of, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. Right? And at the end of the day, bro, like, yes, holding Bitcoin for the US government is going to be more beneficial. But you know what's going to be? It's going to be beneficial for the U.S. government. But you know what's going to be even more beneficial for the U.S. government? The propagation of the United States dollar. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin, whether people are saying it can coexist, I say I think it can, but I think Bitcoin's better money. It's just better money than dollars. And I think eventually, if Bitcoin's allowed to propagate, if Bitcoin is allowed to get treated as money from a regulatory perspective, I think more and more people are going to choose Bitcoin over the dollar. So at the end of the day, the people in power are not stupid, bro. So, that's the benefit. That's kind of the worst case. The best case is, like I said, it's politically unpopular, and he knows that it might hurt his chances during the midterms. Another red herring also too is Bo Hines resigned, and Bo Hines was the one who was driving that initiative forward. So, again, don't pay attention to what they do. Pay attention to what they don't pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to what they do. And what have they done? Well, they bought pesos $20 billion worth of pesos before they bought Bitcoin. And I got to say, that's pretty disappointing. I understand it from a geopolitical standpoint. They want to get ahead of China. It's funny. It doesn't matter if it's not a budget neutral way. If it means that they can get ahead of that money comes out real quick. Where'd that money come from? Thin air, bro. So like this, I'm not buying this budget neutral stuff, man. It's taken too long. It's been 9 or 10 months now since they've promised this. This was part of the campaign promise, and I haven't seen it. Also, in Nashville, I want to talk about this too. We can kind of pivot this a little bit, OPTI. In Nashville, candidate Trump, which is now President Trump, promised us that Bitcoin was going to the moon. Bitcoin has not gone to the moon. In fact, we touched an all-time high, and we're back at 118K. That doesn't feel really good. Is the bull market over, OPTI? Is it done?
I don't think so. Sorry, I accidentally blocked someone in the chat. I'm trying to find you. I apologize, AB. I didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to fix that right now. So, short of it, I don't think it's over, Nico.
Why?
It's just not over. I am the source. My gut is telling me it's not. Okay, guys, that this is financial advice. No, I'm trolling. I'm looking at the chart and it's still kind of bullish. The weekly chart's looking still pretty bullish to me. We're retesting the support, and I think it's going to rip. But yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to block you. I'm trying to find you.
Also, want to give a shout out to all the streams. Shout out YouTube. Shout out Rumble. Shout out Primal. We're streaming to Nostr via Primal. Shout out to the Primal team over there. And shout out to X. X always coming in strong. So if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far, Simply Bitcoin Live on Friday, make sure to smash that like button. We got some surprises for you guys over the next couple weeks, which should be a whole lot of fun. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You guys are going to like it. But anyways, it's going to be a great show. I do want to go back into that conversation, OPTI, about whether the bull market is over or done. I do want to talk about that more.
Dude, do you want me to chart boy?
I do want you to chart boy.
Man, okay.
I want the culture to be OPTI chart boy.
Okay, I'll chart boy later. Let me try to fix my mistake.
OPTI's chart boy for the culture. Anyways, guys, be a fantastic show. Already 689 live viewers on YouTube alone. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. Almost 100 live viewers on Rumble. About 15, 20 or so watching live on Primal, and then over 1,000 on X. So again, if you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. We have tons to talk about today. But before we get into it, I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor, the best place to build your Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Why do we recommend bitcoinwell.com here at Simply Bitcoin? Well, again, it enables independence. You put in your email address here. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. And it's the only Bitcoin on-ramp in the United States that's automatic self-custody. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a high net worth individual, a family office, a trust, or an organization, and you want a white glove service designed to help you buy Bitcoin directly to self-custody, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC and tell them your friends over at Simply Bitcoin sent you. They'll take very good care of you. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed.
and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $118,340. Also, guys, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to stampseed.com. Get yourself a Stamp Seed kit. They just released their 12-word plate on titanium, only on stampseed.com. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Block height, 918,469 sats per dollar, 845. Market cap, 2.36 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.33%. Decline from all-time high, negative 6.2%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. Anyways, here is Keir Starmer. I don't know if I said that correctly. He is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And he said the quiet part out loud. It's almost as if we were right about this, OPTI. Almost. It's almost as if we called it. It's almost as if we said,
like you could predict the future.
It's almost as if we said this was an inevitability, because they kept saying that this wasn't going to happen. They kept saying that, no, this is impossible, and et cetera, et cetera. He said the quiet part out loud, which is exactly what we said was going to happen, because, again, it's not rocket science.
Have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers. Not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others. So I think now we need to go out and make that case in huge numbers. Not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so.
Dude, that's like, I don't even know if he has a cell phone. Whereas also, I do want to give a shout out. My sister Megan is in the house. If you want to give Megan a shout out, please make sure to comment Megan in the chat. Again, it's spelled Megan with 10 E's. That's how you spell it. And you have to say it like a sheep, because if not, you say the name wrong. But anyway, so say Megan. And when you see her, that's how you have to call her. Anyways, if you want. I'm just joking. She's my little sister. I'm getting older. Dad jokes are terrible.
Boomer jokes.
Boomer dad jokes. Anyways, back to the digital ID stuff. So this is what we were warning about. This is what they were warning about, and this is what they were denying, right? This is what we were warning about. This is what they were denying. And I was saying, like, and again, there was, I think it was like 2 or 3 million British citizens signed a petition against the government complaining about the digital IDs. And then, we got some Megans in the chat. That's fantastic. Oh, we got 2 Megans in the chat.
A bunch of them.
Megan. Okay. Anyhow, so he's saying the quiet part out loud. He's like, hey, look, it's going to connect to your money and it's going to make payments easier. But it's also going to give us complete control and get to decide what we can and do for your money. But you got to trust us because we're the government. Like, oh, man. Anyhow, so here's Stephen Barrett. And he says, digital ID is telling us what it is, where you visited. Get our own little personal online, I can't say that word, let's say government officer to look into us, judge us, and control every aspect of our lives. We must resist. Like, take a look at that app, right? So your digital ID is controlled to your house, your appointments, your vehicle, your voting. Imagine getting into your vehicle. It's like, you said something naughty online, 5 miles.
Yeah.
Only 5 mile limit.
This is why I don't want a Tesla.
All right. Only 5 mile limit. You said naughty online. You said something naughty online. You can no longer vote.
Dude, I can no longer drive.
That is very dystopian. That's very dystopian. I just don't like this. Look, I think we should again, this is something that they're seeking to solve a problem that doesn't exist. And in my opinion, I think they're seeking to solve this problem because they see Bitcoin, they see the writing on the wall, and I think it freaks them out. That's my honest opinion. I think it freaks them out. So anyhow, Here's David Davis, and he says government ID photos of around 70,000 Discord users worldwide have been stolen after hackers breached the security of an age verification company. If these tech companies can't keep our data safe, what hopes does Whitehall have of keeping digital IDs safe? Here's the next post. Here's the actual article. Hack of age verification firm may have exposed 70,000 Discord users' ID photos. Government ID photos of 70,000 global users of Discord, a popular messaging and chat platform among video gamers, may have been exposed after hackers compromised a company contracted to carry out age verification. So again, you're creating a honeypot. You're creating a problem that, in my opinion, doesn't exist. You can use a passport, you can use a physical ID, and it works just fine. It works fine. It gets the job done. Why are they mandating that everyone gets digital IDs all of a sudden? You see this all over Europe, right? It's a digital ID, and they try to put roses on it and make it sound reasonable and logical. And then simultaneously, they're telling you, like, Christine Lagarde can't even help herself. And she says, I actually don't like democracy. Democracy is getting in the way of me being able to launch a central bank digital currency. Now, after everything we've lived through over the past decade, I'm going to pass it on to you guys. Do you think that it's mere happenstance or coincidence that they're hell-bent on rolling out digital IDs while simultaneously trying to roll out central bank digital currencies, while at the same time, the Prime Minister of the UK just said that, hey, you know what? It's going to be easier to access your money. That wasn't even part of the bargain. that was a Freudian slip, right? Like, this is crazy. And then again, it goes back to the very fundamental core question that I've been telling you guys for over 2 weeks now. Like, is this really the role of government? I think personally, what I think is that they're salivating at the mouth, looking at what the Chinese government is able to do and how they're able to control their populace. And they're saying, hey, why can't we have that? That's what I think is happening, man. So again, you got to ask yourself, because this is really a dire situation. I actually forgot to pull up the post. Oh my God. I can't believe I forgot to do that. The Telegram CEO.
Oh yeah, that was great.
He posted a warning about this, so you guys don't think it's only just me losing my mind. He posted early on today. OPTI, can you share that here? I got it right here. Perfect. The Telegram CEO said this was, I think, this morning. He said, "I'm turning 41." But
no, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. So I'm turning 41. This is Pavel Durov. He's the founder of Telegram. He's an absolute genius. They call him the Mark Zuckerberg of Russia. And he says, I'm turning 41, but I don't feel like celebrating. Our generation is running out of time to save the free internet built for us by our fathers. What was once the promise of the free exchange of information is being turned into the ultimate tool of control. Once free countries are introducing dystopian measures such as digital IDs, online age checks, and mass scanning of private messages. Germany is persecuting anyone who dares to criticize officials on the internet. The UK is imprisoning thousands for their tweets. France is criminally investigating tech leaders who defend freedom and privacy. A dark dystopian world is approaching fast while we're asleep. Our generation risks going down in history as the last one that has had freedoms and allowed them to be taken away. We've been fed a lie. We've been made to believe that the greatest fight of our generation is to destroy everything our forefathers left us: tradition, privacy, sovereignty, the free market, and free speech. By betraying the legacy of our ancestors, we've set ourselves on a path towards self-destruction, moral, intellectual, economic, and ultimately biological. So no, I'm not going to celebrate today. I'm running out of time. We are running out of time. That's a very, very strong and well-written message. And it's telling you guys the blunt truth. And it's telling you guys what we've been saying here at Simply Bitcoin. And I think we bring it down to the most fundamental, basic layer. If you control money, you control society. What Bitcoiners are proposing is a money that cannot be controlled by anyone, but has a set of rules. So it's rules without rulers, or rules or money with rulers, I guess, is the opposite of that. I don't know. I'm coming up with all of this
without rulers.
I'm coming up with all of this off the cuff.
Money with rules.
But anyways, dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. They're saying the quiet part out loud, man. And it happened here in the U.S. Remember the document that Senator Lummis discovered from the Fed that was not supposed to be released? This memo, right?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember it?
No,
You don't remember the memo?
What did it say again?
It was basically along the lines of like, it was basically along the lines of like, it went through all of the Fed's short-term goals, and at the very bottom of the list, it said central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
While simultaneously, you have Jerome Powell testifying in front of Congress that they're not going to launch central bank digital currencies. I think that's the scary part, in my opinion. So, anyways, what do you think of?
I mean, it's just anything new. We know they don't want us to have freedom money, but I do want to talk about the narrative around this. That how do you say his name? Keir Starmer said,
the prime minister.
The prime minister. Yes,
you have to say it right.
I can't do an English accent. I can do a Valley Girl accent. That's all I got.
Do it in Valley Girl.
That's how I speak. I can't do any other accent. I do want to comment on, and obviously I don't want to rehash what Nika said because I fully agree on his takes on this. I do want to mention the idea around the narrative. We've seen the narrative shift around digital ID and CBDCs. It's constantly morphing. And like that tweet said, it's obviously the quiet part out loud, though I would kind of flip it. What do you say? You know, digital ID and CBDC will make it easier for you to use your money. Again, we've been talking about this for a while. They always frame CBDCs as like a convenience payments factor. And now they're doing the same thing with digital ID. And in reality, for probably most of us here, it would be a lot harder for us to use our money. This is why we use Bitcoin, because we don't need their permission to use our money. I don't think you should have or need someone's permission to use money. That, in my opinion, is why we are Bitcoiners. The permissionless system where as long as you opt into it, I don't have to ask someone whether I can, buy freaking Twinkies at the grocery store. Like, what is going on here? So I find it interesting. Obviously, we are in the business of narratives and as I like to call it, propaganda. And you can see that their narrative is constantly shifting because the first things that they kind of give to the public around what they want to do, it doesn't hold any water, and they're getting a lot of pushback on this. And so they're constantly trying to morph this narrative to appease people. And as I've been saying for a while, they always rely on one kind of rhetorical tool, and it's convenient. And so it's funny that they're going this point or this angle. It's like, oh, the digital ID and CBDC, it's going to be easier for you to use your money. And you're like, yeah, that's probably not the case. And so again, I've been saying for a while, I've been a little flippant about it. I'm like, the UK is cooked. It doesn't look good for parts of Europe right now. And hopefully in the US, we can skirt past this. But more to the people out there that do watch us over there on the other side of the pond is like, this is the stuff that everyone should be kind of freaking out about. I was going to say something. This is what everyone should be pushing back against. This is like the dystopian Bitcoiner slavery meme that we always talk about. This is not the future I want to live in. I do not want to see this implemented in any parts of the Western world, in any parts of the world, to be honest. But from an American perspective, if this happens in Europe and people just kind of go along with it, then it's a safe bet to say that it's going to happen here, or at least they're going to try to do it here. Hopefully there's a lot more pushback from Main Street or retail or just individuals. But I don't know, from anything we've seen in the last couple of years, I feel like a lot of people are just going to fall into this trap, which is horrible.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with that. Anyways, guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Big breaking news. CNBC article. We're going to be talking about this, but a major bank drops restrictions on which wealth clients could own crypto funds. Again, Bitcoin's taking over Wall Street. And this is in stark contrast to what the UK's biggest investment platform has, a warning for their investors. So you can kind of see the game theory of how different countries are looking at Bitcoin. But fundamentally, when different countries are competing, because that's what it is. Like if you take an anti-Bitcoin stance, you're planting a flag in the ground and you're saying, you know what, we feel a certain way about Bitcoin. And if another country saying, hey, look, we actually like Bitcoin, the country that likes Bitcoin is going to fundamentally be at an advantage. And what's going to happen over the long term, and we see this with all the expats moving to Dubai, like, and you kind of saw this a little bit in the States, a little bit during the pandemic when California and New York were extremely hostile towards businesses. You saw a lot of people get up and move to Texas and Florida. There was this mass exodus. So people more and more are going to start voting with their feet. And now that you have a whole class of people that make their money online, they work remotely. It obviously, those people are going to, they're going to vote with their feet, right? It's inevitable in my opinion. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 731 live viewers. Just on YouTube alone, almost 100 live viewers on Rumble. And shout out to the Primal audience. We got 4,700 zaps. Appreciate it. Thank you, Primal. Thank you, Nostr. We're at 17 live viewers on Primal. And of course, the X audience coming in strong. Guys, we're going to be right back in just a bit. We're going to hit the news segment. We have tons to talk about. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, before we get into the show, here is OPTI, and he's showing off the BitKey. Guys, this is the most intuitive and easiest Bitcoin hardware wallet to use. All you got to do is tap it with your phone, and boom, you're ready to spend, and it's multi-sig, right? So scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to the bitkey.world website, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get a 20% discount. Again, guys, you want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. BitKey is literally the easiest way to do it. All right, everybody, let's get on to today's story. What am I talking about? Morgan Stanley, massive bank, huge bank, ginormous bank, drops restrictions on which wealth clients can own crypto funds. So let's go through some of the key points. Morgan Stanley on Friday told its financial advisors that the firm was broadening access to crypto investments to all clients and allowing such investments in any type of account, including retirement accounts, CNBC learned. Starting October 15th, advisors will be able to pitch crypto funds to any client. Previously, the option was limited to those with an aggressive risk tolerance and at least $1.5 million in assets. Morgan Stanley will rely on an automated monitoring process to make sure that clients aren't overly concentrated in the volatile asset class. So that last part sounded a little bit...
AI is going to make sure you don't have 100% of Bitcoin.
No, but how I'm interpreting that is like okay, because like think about, okay, you guys don't understand. The whole wealth management business relies on experts basically trying for you to get a return on your money, and they take a fee for that, right? And usually that's around 10 to 12% return a year. If you're overly aggressive, you can go for 15, but it's really that 8 to 12% sweet spot. And then some funds return more than that. But the point is that if Michael Saylor's right and Bitcoin is destined to a 30% CAGR for the next 30 years, it beats every single one of these wealth management companies, and you don't have to pay a fee, right? So that last paragraph is very suspicious to me, bro. Because it's kind of like, oh, dude, it's performing too well. We gotta sell some.
It reminds me of The Big Short, where it's like you got to keep them on the roller coaster, and it's all Fugazi. You guys,
that's
you guys
not The
know.
Big Short. That's Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street.
It's all Fugazi.
It's all Fugazi. Keep them on the roller coaster.
Exactly. Do want to give a shout out to live stream. 725 people watching live just on YouTube alone. Shout out to the other platforms as well. If you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live, make sure to smash that like button. Anyways, let's continue on. So on the other side of the pond, it seems like there's a different type of reaction to it. Bitcoin is an investment class. UK's biggest investment platform has
is not.
Is not. That's a key difference. Thank you, Opti, for catching me there.
Yo, you really need hooked on. Hey, Sophie, Christmas is coming up. Let's get them hooked on phonics.
I've tried everything. I've tried everything for my reading skills, and it's not worked 30 plus years later. So anyways, on the other side of the pond, Opti, appreciate the correction. Bitcoin is not an investment class, according to the CNBC article.
Dude, it's asset class, bro.
What did I say? Okay, Bitcoin is
who let this guy in?
Bitcoin. Oh man, I'm seeing things. It's Friday. It's been a long week. Okay, I'm sorry. This is the right version. Bitcoin is not an asset class. Bitcoin is not an asset class. We got it right this time.
You got it right the third time.
All right. Third time's the charm. UK's biggest investment platform has a stark warning for investors. The UK's biggest retail investment platform.
Hargreaves Land Zone.
What Opti said has urged traders to exercise caution on cryptocurrencies. The HL investment view is that Bitcoin is not an asset class, and we do not think cryptocurrency has characteristics that mean it should be included in portfolios for growth or income. The long-standing UK ban on retail investors being able to access crypto exchange-traded notes was lifted on October 8th. Now, what's really interesting about this, and guys, you have to connect the dots because these headlines by themselves don't mean anything. You can just tell that they don't like this thing. And I have a feeling, and I know why. It's the reason I laid out, right? It's literally the reason I laid out. If you're a wealth management firm and you're charging a fee, and all of a sudden there's an asset that you can take self-custody of, and it's giving better returns, why would you pay that fee for someone else to hold your money? It's literally as simple as that. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. So when I'm seeing banks kind of saying like, this and this and that, and when I'm seeing, the UK, the biggest investment platform in the UK saying, look, it's not an asset class. Here's the thing, guys, like that tells me that they don't even believe in free markets. Like you don't get like, it's like when Christine Lagarde was saying like, Bitcoin isn't an asset class. And then everyone started giving her like,
it had no intrinsic
value. It's like, dude, that's your opinion. But the market, the market is saying it's worth $118,000 and it's the best performing asset of the last 15 years. So like you could ignore reality for ideological reasons. And you could say it's not an asset class, but the free market is saying the exact opposite of what you're saying. Right. And again, I think it comes from a place of fear. I think it comes from a place of you're worried. That's what I think that's what it boils down to, in my humble opinion. Right. So you can kind of see the stark contrast. Now, the good news is, and I'll kind of end it with this and then pass it on to OPTI, is that you can only do that for so long. Why? Because eventually you get a competitor that says, actually, you know what? Bitcoin is a fantastic asset class, and we're going to offer that on our platform. And then all the people that are denied for buying Bitcoin on that platform for ideological reasons are going to open an account with the competitor and go there. And then the game theory comes on. And I'm calling it right now. Eventually, they're going to bend the knee, right? We saw the same thing happen here in the United States. Originally, Larry Fink was, Bitcoin is speculative. Bitcoin's not an asset. It's used for money laundering, et cetera, et cetera. And then 5 or 6 years later, the Bitcoin ETF literally becomes the most profitable ETF for BlackRock. And it becomes the fastest growing ETF in history for BlackRock and just in history in general, right? And then Vanguard initially said, hey, we're not going to do that because Bitcoin is not an asset and Bitcoin is risky. And then 6 months later, what did Vanguard do? They turned around and they said, actually, we're going to allow our clients to buy third-party ETFs. Why did they do that? Because they were probably losing clients to BlackRock, right? So free market is going to do what the free market does best. And at the end of the day, people make it ideological, but I don't think it is ideological. If you take an ideological stance on Bitcoin and you say, hey, you know what? This thing is, this thing is not an asset class. It's not money. I'm going to use who came up with the line, have fun staying poor. I think it was Michael Saylor.
Was it Michael? Maybe. Yeah.
I think it was Michael Saylor.
It wasn't Michael Saylor.
You're literally making a decision not to benefit from Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, as time goes by, there's a financial cost to that. Like you could believe that the sky is purple, right? You could believe that. You could say Bitcoin is not money. Bitcoin is not an asset. Bitcoin is not this. I'm a central banker. I get to determine what things are and this and this and that. As long as number keeps going up, and it has been going up, you're wrong, right? You're just wrong. You can feel whatever way, but you're wrong. So anyhow, not financial advice, just an opinion, just talking. It's Friday. Shows at 754 live
totally
viewers.
Financial advice.
Despite me not being able to read very simple English headlines.
or the hook.
Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. OPTI, what's your opinion? And then we're going to get to chart boying.
I guess we're going to chart boy.
Chart boy. Okay. End of Friday. Chart boy. I'm excited.
People want the chart boying. I think you hit the nail on the head. I was going to say the same exact thing. This really reminds me of the Vanguard CEO, who also, when BlackRock launched their ETF, was like, we're not going to let our customers hold this. We're not even going to allow these products on our platform. And then, 6 months later, he got replaced by the literal guy who launched the BlackRock ETF. So I don't know who this Hargraves institution is, but someone in the chat says I was just about to open an account. No more. It sounds exactly the same thing. And again, the timing of it is really like obvious what they're doing. The UK just lifted their ban on the ETFs. The following day, one of the biggest and oldest institutions like, yeah, this is not an asset class. Do not invest in this thing. And again, it's just go watch the Wolf of Wall Street, that one clip. It's, the Matthew McConaughey clip. It's like, Wall Street isn't real. Keep them on the roller coaster and we make a bag out of this. Like, we get all the money. Never make it real for them. Just keep them in, on the roller coaster, or else it becomes real to them and then we lose out on the money. This is what it's all going on. And then also, the Morgan Stanley headline did sound super bullish until you read that last key takeaway, which is the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. They understand what's at stake here, which is literally their jobs. Why do you need a financial manager to underperform Bitcoin when all you have to do is buy Bitcoin and hold it? It just, like, the math doesn't make sense if you are trying to store your wealth. If all you want from a savings account or a portfolio is to protect your wealth, why are you going to give them money to basically underperform Bitcoin? It makes no sense. But it is interesting that this signal hasn't really gotten around to everyone. Bitcoin is still looked at as this risky speculative asset or this speculative investment, this gamble. Whereas from our perspectives, someone that's been in Bitcoin for a long time, that's like all in on Bitcoin, to us, it's risky not to be in Bitcoin. Like, it's risky to diversify your portfolio in anything but Bitcoin. As I've been kind of showing you guys the last couple of weeks, there is a real opportunity cost. And if you can't outperform Bitcoin in your entrepreneur endeavors, your other investments, why are you doing that? You need to price everything in Bitcoin. And if you're doing that, then a lot of these fund managers, a lot of these portfolio managers, they're not going to have a job here. And, I'm not out here advocating for people to lose their, careers and their well-being. It's more like, this is the world that we're going in. All you really need to do to protect yourself and have a good portfolio is save in Bitcoin and take that into custody. You don't have to pay fees on it. It's just like, it's very simple. It's almost too simple for people. They want to overcomplicate things. They want to outsource this to other people. They don't want to think about it. And here we are, like, yeah, that's exactly what I do, except for I don't outsource my holdings to other people. I just hold Bitcoin and chill. Like, it's not that complicated.
Absolutely. Reach Bitcoin's end. I think that's the goal that everyone should try to achieve in their lifetime. Anyways, guys, we still have a fantastic show lined up for you guys. It is Friday, and OPTI is going to
Dude, my
Boy.
chart's not even that impressive.
OPTI is going to Chart Boy. If you guys are enjoying Chart Boy OPTI, write Chart Boy OPTI in the chat.
Wine wants memes.
And
memes or Chart Boy?
Wine,
no, I can't pull up memes right now. I can't pull up memes. All right,
everybody, we're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinbend.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody, we're back. OPTI, where's the
Sorry, Nate. Wine's distracting me. You know, wine's distracting me. All right,
boy?
guys. Okay.
Where's the
All
chart
right,
boy,
I got
bro?
it. I got it.
Where's the chart boy?
All right, by popular demand, you guys like the chart bowling. We've tried forever to stay away from TA stuff, but apparently people want some chart bowling. Here it is. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. I got way too many freaking tabs open over here. Where is my tab? Okay, here we go. All right, guys, this is what I'm looking at, and I actually have some indicators here. I kind of like them. Actually, let me plug him. Actually, let me just do a chart bowling. I'll do the chart bowling, and then I'll plug these indicators, and I'll kind of explain them. Okay, so everyone's freaking out. What? Let me see. On the daily, we are down like 2%. Actually, that's a pretty big candle. That's a pretty big candle here. 3%, 3.21% on this candle.
That's pretty bad.
It's not that bad. But so this daily doesn't look that good. This I'm gonna be honest. This daily is looking brutal. But we might be entering a trade war. And as everyone knows, Bitcoin is the most liquid asset in the world right now, and people still look at it as a risky asset. So by that, I mean that when people get scared, they sell out their Bitcoin first because they want to go into things that they think won't move in the market. And even though the S&P 500 is reacting kind of negatively, and the Bitcoin price is acting negatively, like gold's still at 4K right now. So gold's still holding on really strong. And it's actually, let me double check this. Maybe it's pumping. It actually corrected yesterday, and now it's not. It's it's pumping a little bit, but you can tell this is completely opposite of what we're seeing from Bitcoin and S&P 500 right now.
Why do you think that is?
Because people just feel comfortable with gold, and we're seeing a lot of people diversify into the oldest hard money, which is of course Bitcoin. Anyways, let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. So what I'm looking at is it's really on the weekly. So like the monthly is beautiful, and I'm really trying to minimize all my lines on my chart. I do have two here. I'm trying to keep it to one, but there is this uptrend, which is we're still following, so I'm not really that concerned per se. The monthly is still bullish. It's still a green month so far, so I think October is still in effect. But I was talking to Luke this morning, asking him also to like confirm what is the kind of time frame that you're looking at that you do your chart bowling on, and we both kind of confirmed that it's the weekly here. So if you're looking at the weekly, we basically broke through the last high that we saw. Last highest weekly close that was in July. We got this really good candle here. It broke through that support. At the time it was resistance. It's flipped to, I like blue. I usually have this blue and red just because I'm colorblind. It broke through that, and then now we are kind of correcting and testing that support. This is on the weekly. So the weekly, I could move this here, I guess. And, that looks a little better, but it's the same difference. And that is around 118-ish. So this week is going to be very interesting to see what happens Sunday. So if we close under 118, then guys, my buddy might be right. We might have to pack it up, but I don't believe that's what's happening. We are correcting here. And the reason I don't think that's what's happening is because of stats like this, which is Glassnode. And this is, I think, part of the greater trend. We're all wondering right now whether the 4-year cycle is over or not. Everyone is kind of talking about 4-year cycle is dead because institutions are coming into Bitcoin and they have fundamentally changed the market structure and the price of Bitcoin. And what that means is essentially, since Bitcoin price isn't being driven by retail, you're not going to get these crazy FOMOs, this crazy dump, because let's be honest, retail and Main Street, not necessarily us because we're true believers, but the average investor in Bitcoin doesn't really understand all of the psychology of what's going on. So they see something pump, they buy it, it gets really high, maybe they sell out, they see it dumping, and then they continue to sell out into the bottom. They just get wrecked. Their emotions get caught up in this. But what I think is happening here is this greater trend that institutions are driving the price of Bitcoin. And as I've been saying the last couple of weeks, actually, Mauricio from Ledin came on here. When was that? That was like months ago. And he kind of planted this idea that since the institutions are here, what you need to watch are the institutional inflows. And yes, they're going into ETFs, but as you can see from here, this is Glassnode this morning. The ETF inflows have continued despite the recent pullbacks, showing that institutional demand remains steady even as derivative traders get chopped. This suggests structural buying is still underpinning the market, helping to absorb volatility and stabilize price action. And, you know, look at this. This is like, we haven't seen this amount of buying since April of 23, right? Is this? Yeah, that's what it's saying. And so, wait. Why are these numbers weird? Anyways, let me go back. No, sorry, April of this year, the beginning of this year. So you're starting to see the institutions still have the appetite for Bitcoin. And this really goes into this idea of an unlimited bid under Bitcoin. And if you are these institutions, and we've heard a lot of rhetoric come out from these institutions, that they're not necessarily just buying Bitcoin for the short term, whether it's like Matt Hogan from Bitwise. We're hearing even JP Morgan's and the biggest banks of the world essentially tell us that this debasement trade is catching on, that people are looking at Bitcoin as a hedge against fiat currencies, or the, you know, demise of fiat currencies, of this idea that your currencies in dollars are being debased and you need to find a hedge, whether that's gold or that's Bitcoin. Some people may still think that real estate's a hedge against that debasement. Historically, it has been. And so am I thinking that this is the top? Not right now. On Sunday, or maybe on Monday, I'll come back and I'll have to readjust my view on where we are right now. Maybe I'll be depressed on Monday because we broke down on this price structure and we're under 118. But from my view, I think we're still in for October. Though someone did say something interesting in the chat, that since the 4-year cycle is dead, then maybe October is dead also, which is super bearish, but it's a total possibility here. So anyways, chart boy, dude, the line I'm looking at the weekly line here. Oh yeah, I remember. So I have been looking at these indicators here. And one of them is, and again, I'm not the biggest power law guy, but these indicators are kind of based off the power law. And we have Bitcoin divergence for Bitcoin only, and then we have the RSI plus with divergence. And the reason I like these is, let me zoom out a little bit. And shout out to him. He's just giving these out. I forget what his name. It's like JJ88 or something like that. J186 or something. I don't know. I'll have to find his Twitter account. I don't have it right on hand. I didn't really think we were going to do some chart buying here. But the reason I like this is, one, this Bitcoin divergence. It's showing you in the green when the price gets here, or this, RSI, or it's a, indicator. When this indicator gets in the green, this is a buy because they perfectly line up with these dips. And he's been using this for a long time. He's actually the first guy to talk about the power law on the Bitcoin forums. And then again, when it gets in the red, then that's when the market is oversold. And, maybe you take a little chips off the table and you wait for this green. And so if you look at this, we are right smack dab in the middle, which means there's nothing to be concerned about. And then RSI, you guys know RSI's, standard indicators here. But again, when it gets up to this high part above 80%, that's when it's getting frothy. When it gets below this 40%, that's when it's going to bottom. Again, these are right in the middle. These are new for me. I don't really trade on indicator. I don't even trade, but I like watching these indicators because I think they are essentially helping you kind of relax your psychology and look at this and be like, hey, look, they line up perfectly with the bottom. I don't know, man. I like anything to help me as a crutch to kind of anchor what I'm already thinking. So anyways, uptrend, we are testing this weekly. We'll see what happens. Well, that one's the monthly, but Sunday will be the real test. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. Oh, it's going to be interesting to see if this closes under this tonight. But yeah, anyway, there's my chart boying, guys. I'm not a TA chart boy, but hopefully you got something from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everybody is thinking, right? Which is, I think a lot of us were thinking that Bitcoin was just going to blow off to new highs. That was kind of like the sentiment a couple of days ago, like literally 9 days ago. And this is October,
dude, this is Whacktober.
But we did not get that at all. Yeah, we hit an all-time high, but we didn't have that parabola phase that is like very well known in the Bitcoin markets, right? And I think sentiment has changed because I think if you believe in the 4-year cycle theory, then you're like, okay, well, we're kind of running out of time, right?
TikTok.
We have less than 3 months for this, blow off top, and I think we're all gonna kind of find out if if this cycle is going to continue to play out like it normally plays out, or we're going to find out if this cycle truly is different, and we're going to find out if the cycle breaks and we have kind of like this extended cycle. We're all going to find that out in the next 3 months or so. And Bitcoin always tends to do the exact opposite of what everyone thinks, so we shall see. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the last episode of the first week of October, I think this is the first week,
first full week of SB Live on October 2025. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. Someone in the chat says Rectober. That's funny. And I do want to give a shout out to one of our partners. Guys, this is the largest Bitcoin mining conference in the world. You're not going to want to miss it. Mining Disrupt, November 11th through the 13th in Dallas, Texas. Get your tickets now. Scan the QR code on your screen, which I'm about to pull up. Scan the QR code on your screen. You get a 20% discount using promo code simplybitcoin. Hope to see you guys in Dallas. Hashtag OPTI is going back to Dallas, November 11th through the 13th of 2025. Hope to see you guys there. All right, everybody. Love you all. We appreciate you. We love you. And we will see you on the next episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.